On Carter is just as bad as the diddler. I got your boy Diddy by the nut.
New allegedly leaked footage of Diddy's disturbing tunnels has been revealed in court. This supposed leaked footage will truly disturb you. The unfolding scandal involving Sean Diddy Combs has become one of the most explosive and contentious in recent memory, especially within the realms of the music and entertainment industries. Accusations of sex trafficking, drug abuse, physical and emotional exploitation, and coercion have come to the forefront, presenting a much darker side to a figure who has long been seen as a cultural and business icon. While the more sensational rumors, such as the alleged existence of secret escape tunnels beneath his Miami mansion, have been dismissed, the real-life implications of the crimes Diddy is accused of are both shocking and far-reaching. The federal investigation that initially began as a sex trafficking probe has expanded, uncovering a series of allegations and a web of criminal behavior that could spell the downfall of one of hip-hop's most influential figures. To understand the true magnitude of these events, it's essential to delve deeply into the background, explore the broader context within the music industry, and analyze how such abuses could have remained hidden for so long. The accusations and ongoing investigations point not only to individual wrongdoing, but also to a culture of permissiveness and exploitation within the entertainment world, particularly as it pertains to the treatment of young women. In this comprehensive examination, we will retrace the scandal from its inception, explore the testimonies of key witnesses, analyze the role of power dynamics in Diddy's alleged crimes, and speculate on the larger consequences this case could have for the music industry. The raids that sparked the scandal, a high-profile investigation. The unraveling of Diddy's reputation began in March 2023 when multiple federal raids were carried out on several of his properties, including luxury homes in Miami, Beverly Hills, and other high-end locations. The scale of these operations was staggering, with heavily armed federal agents descending upon Diddy's residences in an effort to gather evidence related to a federal sex trafficking investigation. The news of these raids quickly made headlines, with images of armored vehicles parked beside Diddy's fleet of luxury cars, including Porsches and Mercedes G-Wagons, circulating in the media. The contrast between the opulent lifestyle Diddy had cultivated and the serious nature of the investigation could not have been starker. At the time of the raids, Diddy was reportedly not at any of his homes, leading to speculation that he may have been tipped off. Some rumors, particularly the bizarre theory that Diddy had secret tunnels beneath his Miami mansion for quick escapes, gained traction on social media. These tunnels were said to allow him to evade law enforcement undetected. While the theory was eventually debunked, the idea took hold in the public imagination, likely because it seemed to fit the larger narrative of a powerful figure using every tool at his disposal to avoid accountability. More realistically, however, insiders have suggested that Diddy's deep connections in law enforcement and the entertainment industry may have allowed him to stay ahead of federal investigations. Some even allege that the federal agents involved in the raids were deliberately kept in the dark about who they were targeting to avoid any potential leaks or tip-offs. This secrecy suggests that the authorities were well aware of Diddy's influence and connections, which could have undermined the investigation had they not been cautious. While Diddy's absence from his homes during the raids fueled further speculation, the evidence seized would soon prove that the investigation was far from a baseless fishing expedition. The allegations, Diddy's freak-offs, and the dark side of the party scene. Central to the investigation are allegations surrounding Diddy's infamous freak-offs, a term used to describe private parties that took place at his various properties. These parties, once seen as just another facet of the larger-than-life lifestyle enjoyed by top-tier celebrities, have since been revealed to be much more sinister. According to multiple testimonies, these parties involved widespread drug use, exploitation, and coercion, with young women being manipulated into sexual acts under the influence of drugs. Jean Dale, a former bodyguard of Diddy's, has been one of the most vocal figures in shedding light on what happened at these gatherings. In his account, Dio describes how Diddy and other party organizers would slip drugs into women's drinks, specifically targeting those who were less likely to suspect anything was amiss. Rather than spiking alcoholic beverages, which the women were often cautious about. The drugs were often mixed into non-alcoholic drinks like cranberry or orange juice. This method of drugging allowed the perpetrators to avoid detection, as the women did not anticipate that their juice might be laced with substances like ecstasy, ketamine, or GHB, gamma-hydroxybutyrate, a powerful sedative known for its use in sexual assaults. According to Deal and other insiders, these drugs were used to lower the women's inhibitions and make them more pliable, allowing the men at the parties to exploit them sexually. Deal has described how these women, once drugged, would engage in sexual acts without fully understanding what was happening due to the effects of the narcotics. The calculated nature of this exploitation is deeply disturbing, as it reveals a pattern of premeditated abuse designed to take advantage of vulnerable individuals. Beyond the use of drugs, there are also allegations of outright physical and emotional abuse at these parties. Diddy is said to have used threats, intimidation, and even violence to ensure that those in attendance complied with his demands. One particularly egregious incident occurred in 2016 when Diddy was allegedly caught on video assaulting a woman at a Los Angeles hotel after she refused to participate in a sexual act. According to reports, Diddy became enraged, kicking and dragging the woman, and even throwing a vase at her during the altercation. This kind of behavior, if proven, paints a picture of a man who felt untouchable, using his wealth and power to dominate and control those around him. Jaguar writes explosive testimonies, a systemic culture of abuse. In addition to John Deal's account, another voice that has been instrumental in exposing the dark side of Diddy's parties is Jaguar Wright, a former singer who has become one of the most outspoken critics of the music industry. Wright has long been vocal about the abuses that occur behind closed doors, particularly the ways in which powerful men exploit their positions to prey on vulnerable individuals. She has repeatedly emphasized that Diddy is not an outlier, but rather part of a broader culture of exploitation that permeates the entertainment industry. Wright has drawn parallels between Diddy's current situation and the case of R. Kelly, another music industry titan who was eventually convicted of sex trafficking and other crimes after decades of abuse. Like R. Kelly, Diddy had long been protected by his wealth, connections, and influence. But Wright suggests that the tides are finally turning, as more victims are willing to speak out and the public becomes increasingly aware of the dark underbelly of celebrity culture. One of the most disturbing claims that Wright has made is that many of the people in positions of power within the music industry are complicit in the exploitation and abuse of women. She describes the industry as a toxic environment where drugs, sex, and power are used as tools of manipulation. According to Wright, Diddy is merely the latest in a long line of powerful figures to be exposed, but she warns that there are many others who continue to operate unchecked. Wright's insights also suggest that Diddy's crimes were not just limited to his freak-offs. She has alluded to a broader pattern of abusive behavior, including instances where Diddy allegedly used his influence to control or silence those who posed a threat to his empire. This kind of power dynamic is common in cases of abuse, where the abuser relies on fear and manipulation to maintain control over their victims. The evidence collected, what federal agents found. The raids on Diddy's properties were not just for show. They yielded significant evidence that has since been used to build a case against him. Federal agents seized a range of items, including firearms, electronic devices, and materials that corroborate the allegations of sex trafficking and abuse. One of the most important pieces of evidence came in the form of Diddy's electronic devices, which are said to contain images and videos of his notorious parties. These recordings allegedly show women being coerced into sexual acts, many of whom were under the influence of drugs at the time. The presence of these recordings is crucial, as they provide concrete proof of what took place at the freak-offs, making it difficult for Diddy's legal team to argue that the allegations are baseless. In addition to the electronic evidence, agents also discovered several firearms during the raids, including 3 AR-15 rifles with defaced serial numbers and a large-capacity drum magazine. These weapons, along with the large quantities of drugs and other materials found at the properties, suggest that Diddy may have been preparing for potential confrontations with law enforcement or rival criminals. The presence of these firearms, especially with their serial numbers removed, adds a further layer of criminal activity to the case, as it suggests that Diddy was involved in illegal arms trafficking, or at least in possession of untraceable weapons. Another significant discovery was the large stockpile of personal lubricants and baby oil found at Diddy's homes. Investigators reportedly uncovered over 1,000 bottles of these substances, which were allegedly used during the freak-offs. While the presence of such items may seem trivial at first glance, they add to the overall narrative of preparation and premeditation that characterizes Diddy's alleged crimes. The sheer quantity of these products, combined with the other evidence found during the raids, paints a picture of an operation that was meticulously planned and executed over the course of many years. The broader context: a culture of exploitation in the music industry. While the allegations against Diddy are deeply troubling, they are not entirely surprising to those familiar with the inner workings of the music industry. For decades, the industry has been plagued by rumors of sexual misconduct, exploitation, and abuse, often involving powerful men who use their influence to prey on young women and men. The Me Too movement, which exposed sexual predators in Hollywood and other industries, only scratch the surface of the systemic issues that pervade the world of entertainment. In the music industry, the problem is particularly acute. The combination of fame, wealth, and access to young, impressionable individuals creates an environment ripe for exploitation. Many young artists, eager to break into the industry, are willing to overlook or tolerate abusive behavior in exchange for opportunities that could launch their careers. This dynamic allows powerful figures like Diddy to operate with impunity, knowing that their victims are often too afraid or too dependent on their goodwill to speak out. Moreover, the culture of excess that is so prevalent in the music industry only exacerbates the problem. Parties, drugs, and sexual promiscuity are often glamorized, creating a facade of permissiveness that allows predators to hide their actions in plain sight. For years, the wild behavior of music moguls and stars has been accepted as part of the lifestyle, with little consideration given to the darker implications of these actions. Diddy's freak-offs are a prime example of this. What may have once been seen as harmless fun has now been revealed as something far more sinister. The legal strategy: racketeering and organized crime charges. One of the most significant developments in the case against Diddy is the use of racketeering charges. Racketeering, which involves running an illegal enterprise through a pattern of criminal activity, allows prosecutors to tie together various crimes under a single legal framework. In Diddy's case, the charges include sex trafficking, drug distribution, firearms offenses, and obstruction of justice. By framing Diddy's actions as part of a larger criminal enterprise, prosecutors can introduce a wide array of evidence that might not otherwise be admissible in a standard criminal trial. This strategy was famously used to bring down other high-profile figures, such as R. Kelly, and has been employed in cases involving organized crime and drug cartels. The racketeering charges allow prosecutors to argue that Diddy's illegal activities were not isolated incidents, but rather part of a coordinated effort to exploit and control individuals for financial gain. This legal approach also opens the door for the prosecution to implicate other individuals who may have been involved in Diddy's criminal enterprise. For example, Lucian Grange, the CEO of Universal Music Group, has been named in the indictment as someone who allegedly participated in Diddy's freak-offs. Grange's involvement is particularly significant because Universal Music Group is one of the most powerful entities in the music industry, responsible for producing a large portion of the world's top-charting songs. The fact that someone of Grange's stature could be implicated in this scandal suggests that the culture of exploitation within the music industry may be far more widespread than previously thought. If the prosecution can successfully link Diddy's actions to a larger criminal enterprise, it could lead to further indictments of other high-profile individuals, potentially triggering a domino effect that exposes corruption and abuse across the industry. The use of racketeering charges also allows prosecutors to introduce evidence of Diddy's financial dealings, including allegations of money laundering, which could provide further insight into how he was able to maintain such a sprawling criminal operation for so long. Diddy's defense attempts to secure bail and counter the charges. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Diddy's legal team has been working tirelessly to secure his release on bail while he awaits trial. According to reports, Diddy has offered to put up a $50 million bond and has agreed to a number of stringent conditions in exchange for his temporary freedom. These conditions include home detention, which would confine him to his residence under electronic monitoring, allowing him to leave only for specific court-approved purposes. Additionally, he has consented to restrictions on visitors, limiting the number of individuals who can enter his home in order to prevent any potential tampering with the ongoing investigation. Furthermore, Diddy has agreed to submit to weekly drug tests, ensuring that he remains in compliance with all legal expectations while awaiting trial. Diddy's legal team argues that he is not a flight risk, emphasizing his strong family ties and significant business ventures that would anchor him in the United States. They argue that his deep-rooted connections to the community, as well as his desire to fight the charges in court, show that he has no intention of fleeing the country. They contend that keeping Diddy in custody not only infringes upon his rights, but also limits his ability to adequately prepare his defense. His lawyers have stressed that allowing him to live at home with his family would not only be humane, but also necessary for him to engage fully in the legal process. However, federal prosecutors have pushed back hard against these requests, insisting that Diddy's release on bail would present a serious risk to the integrity of the case. They cite Diddy's alleged history of obstructing justice, pointing to instances where he has been accused of tampering with witnesses or using his considerable wealth and influence to sway the outcome of previous legal matters. Prosecutors argue that given his financial resources, Diddy has the means to interfere with the case in ways that could significantly hamper the ongoing investigation. Moreover, prosecutors have highlighted the disturbing evidence collected during the raids on Diddy's properties. Among the most incriminating pieces of evidence are electronic devices that allegedly contain videos and images of what have been termed freak-offs, wild, extravagant, and often illicit parties that may involve criminal activities. These devices, according to the prosecution, provide concrete proof of Diddy's involvement in illegal activities, further justifying the need to keep him behind bars to prevent any potential destruction of evidence. The prosecution also points to Diddy's vast network of associates, some of whom may be willing to act on his behalf to intimidate witnesses or obstruct the investigation if he were released from custody. So far, the courts have sided with the prosecution, keeping Diddy in custody as the legal battle continues to unfold. This decision has been met with mixed reactions from the public and legal analysts alike. On one hand, some critics argue that Diddy's immense wealth and powerful connections will eventually tip the scales in his favor, allowing him to escape justice. They cite examples of other high-profile figures who have leveraged their influence to mitigate legal consequences, expressing skepticism that the system will ultimately hold Diddy accountable. On the other hand, there are those who view his continued detention as a sign that the legal system is beginning to crack down on powerful individuals who once seemed untouchable. They argue that this case could set an important precedent, demonstrating that even the wealthiest and most influential individuals are not immune to the consequences of their actions. The ongoing debate surrounding Diddy's bail request has ignited conversations about the broader issues of wealth, power, and justice in America. Many have pointed out that the case highlights the disparities in the criminal justice system, where individuals with significant financial resources can afford the best legal representation and offer massive sums of money for bail, while others facing similar charges are often left languishing in jail due to their inability to pay. Critics argue that this disparity underscores the need for reforms in the bail system, which they believe should focus more on the risk to public safety and the integrity of legal proceedings rather than the defendant's financial capabilities. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team has vowed to continue fighting for his release, exploring all available legal avenues to overturn the court's decision. They have filed several motions in an attempt to challenge the prosecution's narrative, arguing that the conditions Diddy has agreed to would be more than sufficient to mitigate any risk of obstruction. They also maintain that the evidence cited by the prosecution is being sensationalized to paint Diddy in the worst possible light, urging the courts to take a more balanced view of the situation. Diddy's lawyers have expressed confidence that with time, they will be able to prove his innocence and secure his release. As the legal proceedings continue, the public remains divided on the issue, with some calling for a fair trial and due process, while others are eager to see justice served swiftly. The case has become a focal point of media attention, with every new development scrutinized by both supporters and detractors. With Diddy's wealth and influence and the intense scrutiny surrounding the case, many are watching closely to see how the courts will handle such a high-profile figure in the face of serious allegations. In the coming months, it is expected that both sides will continue to clash in court, presenting arguments and counter-arguments in an attempt to sway the judge's decision on bail. For now, though, Diddy remains behind bars, with his future uncertain and his reputation hanging in the balance as the legal system attempts to navigate the complexities of a case involving one of the most well-known figures in entertainment. The future of the case, what's next for Diddy and the music industry? As the legal proceedings against Diddy continue to unfold, it's clear that this case will have far-reaching implications for both him and the broader music industry. If convicted, Diddy faces a minimum of 15 years in prison and potentially much longer if additional charges are brought against him. The evidence against him, particularly the videos and testimonies of victims, is damning, and it's difficult to see how his legal team will be able to mount a successful defense. But beyond the personal consequences for Diddy, this case has the potential to trigger a broader reckoning within the music industry. The involvement of high-ranking executives like Lucian Grange, combined with the widespread nature of the allegations, suggests that Diddy's case is not an isolated incident, but rather part of a larger culture of exploitation that has been allowed to fester for far too long. In the wake of the Me Too movement, there has been a growing demand for accountability within the entertainment industry, and Diddy's case could serve as a catalyst for further investigations into the abuses that have long been hidden behind the glitz and glamour of the music world. As more victims come forward and more evidence is uncovered, it's likely that other high-profile figures will also be implicated, leading to further legal battles and potentially even more dramatic revelations. Conclusion: the legacy of the Diddy scandal. The Diddy scandal represents a turning point not only for the music industry, but also for the broader conversation around power, exploitation, and accountability in the entertainment world. For years, powerful figures like Diddy have been able to operate with impunity, protected by their wealth, connections, and the culture of silence that surrounds them. But as the federal investigation into his activities has shown, even the most powerful can fall when the truth comes to light. As the case continues to unfold, it's clear that the implications of this scandal will be felt for years to come. Whether or not Diddy is ultimately convicted, the revelations about his behavior and the culture of exploitation within the music industry have already done significant damage to his reputation and career. But more importantly, this case has given a voice to the victims of his alleged crimes, who for too long were forced to suffer in silence. The public's demand for justice remains strong, and many are calling for further investigations into the music industry as a whole. As more victims come forward and more evidence is revealed, it's clear that the fight for accountability is far from over. But with each new development, there is hope that the tide is finally turning, and that those who have long been silenced will finally have their voices heard. In the end, the legacy of the Diddy scandal will not just be about the fall of one man, it will be about the systemic issues that have plagued the music industry for decades, and the ongoing struggle to bring those responsible to justice. As the case progresses, the world will be watching, waiting to see whether true accountability can be achieved, or whether the cycle of exploitation will continue, hidden once again behind the glittering facade of fame and fortune.